Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching and Self-Reliance U. Always remember, you are essential as far as your goals, your life, your dreams, and your career. A big thank you to so many people that have subscribed to this YouTube channel, Playing It Forward Coaching. It's got a lot of collective wisdom from a lot of very wise, intelligent people. And one of the ones that I have with me today is Dr. Greg Cauller, who is a phenomenal coach, had some great distance athletes, a phenomenal competitor himself, tremendous math teacher at Northeastern High School. And welcome, Greg, and tell us your story a little bit here.
Well, thank you for the kind introduction, Tim. Yeah, I've been around for a while. I was very fortunate to grow up in a neighborhood where sports was kind of the thing to do as a kid. I did all the traditional sports back in the day. I played, football in the fall and basketball in the winter and baseball in the spring. By the time I got to high school, I wasn't really that good at all three of those sports. And I found my niche in distance running the mile in gym class. And that sort of got me started. And I was fortunate to have a couple of great coaches in high school and great teammates, and we were able to accomplish some pretty big things in high school, including finishing state runners-up in 1976.
Wow.
At Hempfield, we were runners-up in AAA and cross country. Then I went on to Millersville, and I was able to be a member of the national championship cross country team. We won Division II nationals in 1981. So that was a really big deal for me and my teammates and my coaches. And I continued competitive running. I was fortunate to be sponsored by a few different shoe companies, Brooks and Reebok, among others. Not to the point where I was making money from them, but I got equipment, which is of course a big deal to get clothing and shoes for free. So that was something that carried me through my competitive years. And I started coaching officially back in the late 1990s. Before that, I had helped out several elite high school runners whose high school coaches asked me to run with their athletes. And I did that with some kids from York Suburban, from York Catholic, West York, even York High. Back then when they had a cross country team, they had a young man who would end up finishing third at the state meet. And I ran with him for a season. Helped some kids out from Lancaster County as well, at the request of their coaches, but I wasn't officially, the coach of the team. Then I coached for 2 years at Central. And we were very fortunate to have a girls team go to states during my 2-year tenure there. And then when Bob McElwain was the one and only coach at Northeastern, the entire existence of the high school, when he was towards the end of his career, he needed an assistant coach. He asked me to help him coach, and I said, sure, be happy to do it. We worked together for a couple of years, and it was a really good transition because we juxtaposed positions. He became assistant coach, I became head coach, and we worked together until he retired. And then very, very fortunate to have Pete LoBianco, who was an athlete for Bob, decided to become an elementary school teacher and got hired at Mount Wolf. He was interested in helping out with cross country. He came on as a volunteer coach back in the late 2010s, and gradually he became an official assistant coach, and we work together very well. We collaborate very well together, and he's been progressively taking on more responsibilities. He's essentially the technical coach of the team. He writes the workouts. We collaborate on that, but he's primarily the writer of the workouts. And so we're very proud of the kids we've had. We're very appreciative of the support we've gotten from the school and from the parents of the kids, and for the kids themselves. They've put in the amount of work, as all of us who coach know. Our success goes as far as what the effort that the kids are willing to make.
Mhm.
We're only as good as that effort goes, as far as it goes. So we've been very blessed to have kids that are willing to work year round, bad weather, good weather,
Mhm.
through injuries, through bad races, and still persevere and you know compete. So
Sure, sure. Well, and you certainly, I mean, you've had some very good kids that, that I've gotten to know over the years, being up there at Northeastern, that involved coaching the guys and girls tennis. And you do have a wonderful group of kids. I mean, your girls team this past fall was just incredible. And then, Cole Perry did a great job, as far as the guys were concerned, and James Herman and some of those guys. Tell us a little bit about those current kids that you have. And, I know the girls that finished very, very high this year. So,
well, the kids themselves, um, there's so many superlatives I can use to describe them, but that I think the best attribute, or the best thing I can say as attributes for them, is that they're not fearful of failure. They're willing to to work hard, listen to their coaches. They do all the small things well. They eat right, they sleep right. Although I think some of them push the academic envelope a little too much. We're actually trying to battle to get some of them to say, to realize you can't stay up till midnight every night doing schoolwork. I mean, that's fine, I guess, if you're just a student, but when you're trying to run at a high competitive level, staying up till midnight every night, getting 5 hours of sleep isn't good.
yeah.
But they do the small things well, and they are willing to go out and throw down, as Pete and I like to say, when they race. They are willing to compete at a level higher than they've raced before. And if they do fail, or it doesn't work out quite the way they hope, they come back for more. And I think that's the demeanor of the kids we have. They have a quiet confidence about themselves. They realize that their only pathway to getting better is commitment to the sport and to doing the little things well, as training hard. But they're patient and they're persevering. They don't let setbacks dampen their enthusiasm, and they're extremely goal oriented. They have a pathway forward. It's not just living for the next day. They see things months down the road. The girls, Margaret has made a tremendous progression. She's endured setbacks. She had injuries as a sophomore, and then her junior year her junior track season got more or less eliminated by the COVID pandemic. But she came back and did obviously a phenomenal job as a senior in cross country, and now she's looking to do big things in track. The juniors are doing very, very well. The 4x8 team with the Trinity Schroeder and Rachel Kelly and some underclassmen, we're going to be competitive for a district title in that race, and we're competitive in the 4x4 also. These are all events that Northeastern has never had any kind of past history with being competitive at a district level. And this year we're going to be competitive at a district level in both those events. Cole Perry and James Herman, they broke into the scene as when James was a sophomore and Cole was a freshman. They were third and fourth at the league meet, so that was amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible.
James has had some injury issues that he's dealing with, but he's planning to go to York College next year and run cross country and track. We're hoping to have him back. He has a stress fracture right now. We're hoping to have him back with doctor's permission for the balance of the season in the next week or so. But Cole is a tremendous success story, because he's expressed his resolve to keep on his improvement trajectory. He didn't make the state meet until last year. in cross country. He qualified for the state championships, but he didn't stop there. He got a state medal, which is in AAA is a tremendously difficult thing to do,
Absolutely.
especially as an underclassman.
Mhm.
And he really is resolute about getting into the academies. He's looking at West Point and Annapolis. He knows the standards there are rigorous, athletically and academically, and he is doing everything to give himself a shot at realizing that dream. And it makes it so easy. And I think you know this as well, Tim, from your experience coaching. It makes it so easy as a coach when the kid wants to succeed. You're so much more enthusiastic yourself as a coach to want to help that kid when they tell you, hey, I want to be great. I don't want to just be good. I'm not settling for just a county medal or a district medal, but I want to go as far as I can go. Man, you'll drop everything to help that kid out.
Absolutely.
And that's the way Pete and I feel. We're going to continue to give our complete and undivided attention as far as we can with, we're still teachers first and coaches second, but as much as we can, we're going to dedicate our time. The kids are going to show up. And Pete and I have told the kids and their parents this. If the kids are willing to show up and their parents are willing to support that, we will be there 100% for them. We're not going to, back down. So we're extremely enthusiastic and proud of our kids.
Yeah, as you should be. And what's interesting, Coach, is the idea that, and I've always felt this way, and I know you just described it, is that if the kid will bring that fire or that desire in the belly, like you say, we as coaches can really help them out. We cannot provide that desire. Okay, all we can do is kind of set up a stage or a platform for the kids that really want to do well, and then support them as best we can. But they've got to bring that internal fire within them, and it's obvious that you've got a great group of kids that do that type of thing for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Pete and I are working on that I think all of us as coaches recognize that what we know and what we're able to do is based on our experience and what we have seen in the athletes we coached to date, but we're always willing to learn more. We want to grow, we want to get better, we want to improve. And I think where we see our greatest area for improvement at Northeastern is trying to capitalize on the success our program has had to generate enthusiasm with other kids, with younger kids looking at those, looking at the Cole Perrys and the Margaret Carrolls and saying, man, those guys are great. I want to be the next Margaret Carroll. I want to be the next Cole Perry. They're doing so well. And I think that happens in other sports at Northeastern. Volleyball is certainly a good example of that. Their program has longevity and kudos to Matt Wilson and his staff. They do a great job, but it's also the kids. I think those younger kids look at the kids that have state medals and say, I want to be the next person on that team. So that's what Pete and I are aspiring for. We want, as good as the kids are that we have right now, as many great things that we can say about them and that we know about them, we're hoping that we can inspire some of the younger kids to look at them and say, hey, I want to be that next person. So that's what we're trying to focus on a little bit right now.
Yeah. Well, your kids, as I said, they really have that work ethic. They go above and beyond. They go the extra mile, if anything. And I know I've talked to you a little bit about this too. You've had a couple kids, you've almost got to pull the reins back on them a little bit because they're right on that borderline where they're potentially either getting injured or on that injury doorstep, So, I know you've had that challenge as far as almost too much desire.
Yeah, and that's they certainly are that. They are. That's the the other side of the sword, so to speak, with kids in sports like distance running, that they realize that hard work is what gets them to succeed, but at the same time there's a balance, there's moderation that's required. And the good news, I think, right now, injuries are going to be a part of it. There's not one kid on our team that hasn't had setbacks because of injuries, and a lot of them are not, weren't preventable. We couldn't, that we are proud of the fact, Pete and I are both proud of the fact that we do not try to exploit the kids' talents and maximize their potential in high school while they're in high school. We're looking down the road. We want to prepare them for lifelong running, lifelong enjoyment of the sport. We want them to go to college being undertrained, not overtrained. But even with that understanding, even with that philosophy, we are going to have injury issues, and we have it with every kid. Every kid's going to have injury issues. The good news is that the kids have learned to trust us. They trust that Pete and I know what we're talking about. Our track record's been pretty good, and both the kids and their parents trust when we say, hey, you're doing too much, you're going to have to take some time off, or you're going to have to go as uncomfortable or unpleasant or just boring as it is to go up to the auxiliary gym and go on the elliptical or on the bike. That's what you're going to have to do, because you're having aches and pains that could turn into something much worse, and we're going to err on the side of caution, and you're just not going to, and if at the end of the day, it was something small and you could have probably pushed a little harder and made it through without major injury, you're what, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you're going to have more opportunities. So it's not like these kids, this is their one and only shot at the Olympics, and you throw all this, caution to the wind, and you just run until you drop. It's like, nope, you got a life ahead of you, and we're going to protect you now. And if you are healthy going into the meets, even if it meant we could have done an extra workout or two to squeeze a couple seconds out, or at the end of the day, you're going to live to fight another battle, and that's what's most important. You're going to go on, and most importantly, I think, enjoy the sports. We've seen it with other programs, and I'm not calling anybody out, but I think there's other programs where they don't oftentimes recognize that kids are pushing too much, and they end up, not so much they get hurt, they just burn out. They get to college and you just never hear from them again. They're high school stars, and then once they leave college, they just don't ever run again, because I think they just got burned out of the sport, whether it was in high school or college or both. And we're hopeful that our kids will still be running 10 years from now, still enjoy it.
Just looking at the long-term view, what do you think are some of the best life lessons that track and cross country teach? Obviously, there's a number of them, and this I kind of gear this toward teens and young adults, Coach, and some of the best life lessons that you've seen your kids develop.
The usual stuff. The goal setting is an important part of your toolkit as an adult. Being able to set goals and work towards realizing them, and having a plan, and executing that plan. Maybe some of the more something that's more particular to cross country and track and distance running. And in a way, it kind of separates, from what I understand. I'm not a cyclist, but I have a lot of friends who are cyclists, competitive cyclists, and they say, well, the cycling community is a little bit different than the running community. And I ask, well, in which way? And I think it's in this way that I see with running and what kids learn from running. It's interesting because in tennis is sort of like the same thing. You have a team, score, but it's individuals playing the games. It's not, you can't, if you're the number one tennis player, you can't do something that's going to make the number two tennis player better during a match, right? The number two player is on his own, or her own. And in cross country, it's the same thing. That the number two runner and number one runner can't make each other run a better race. They can't make each other faster runners by any kind of direct physical interaction, but they can, sort of in a spiritual way, motivate, and catalyze the efforts and the enthusiasm, the competitiveness, the desire of the other kids on the team.
Mhm.
And alongside of that is the idea that you can pour your heart out in competition. And I talked to Cole Perry about this. In fact, you can go up against the kid from the number one man from right now, York Suburban has a kid named Cole Adams, who's league champion in cross country. And Cole Perry was only a few seconds behind him at the league meet this past fall. Those kids battled to the finish line. I mean, neither one of them wanted to let up. They wanted to destroy the other kid. They wanted to, in the worst way, to finish ahead of the other. But after the race is over, they're best friends. They're talking and they, there's no personal animosity between the two of them. They recognize that they're kindred spirits, that they're both passionate about the same thing. And the fellowship involved with that was just, I mean, it's refreshing. I think it's, I don't have a lot of experience with other sports. From what I understand, it's not that prevalent in cycling, but I see it a lot more in running. I know that, when I was younger, I loved hanging out and talking with my competitors. We lined up at the starting line. It was, gloves came off. We were ready to go do battle.
Sure.
And once it was over, it was like we're best friends, and we enjoyed it. And I think that's what you see with competitive running.
Yeah. No, I certainly agree with you there. And like you say, the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, and really that's what it's kind of all about is becoming not only the life lessons, but then really realizing that everything is in perspective, and and it's a type of thing where if you're involved with a sport like that, I've said this to some of the other coaches, how it's kind of given the kids we have and ourselves, for that matter, kind of a suit of armor during this whole crazy COVID thing, where I think we have a little better adaptation. Anybody who's been steeply involved, whether it's sports, band, music, extracurricular, the plays, John Mars does a great job there at school with those, and just this discipline where you have to be there on time. People are counting on you. And then, having to dig in deep. I think it's a great scenario that will allow, us to adapt a little bit better than, let's say, the average person that hasn't, partaken in some of those extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I think that's probably basic to team sports in general, that if you really buy into your role as a contributor on the team, then you don't want to be you want to uphold a standard that indicates your respect for the kids, for your teammates. The best thing you can do to demonstrate your respect for teammates is to give your best effort and to do the little things, like you said, be there on time, be there every day, give your best effort, support your teammates. And if you can do that, then even if you're the number 15 man on the team, it doesn't matter. You're still part of the team. And that's another thing that I like to use with trying to keep, a perspective with a team, that, one of the realities is with a sport like cross country is, the clock doesn't lie. You run, the time is what it is. You can't blame somebody else for, a bad pass or something, or, if they would have just done something differently, I would have had more success. You can't do that. It's you against the clock, you against yourself, essentially. So that being said, you at the end of the day, you look at the results. There's going to be a number one runner, and there's going to be a number 15 runner.
Sure.
So my rationale with the number 15 runner is your job is equally important to the number one runner, because if you aren't trying to be 14, then 14 has nothing to worry about. And why should 14 have to worry if 15 isn't trying to beat 14?
Right.
And if 13 isn't worried about 14, and if one isn't worried about 2, then, why is there a reason to try to be any faster? So even if 15 man pushing to 14 man propagates upwards and has an effect on the team. And I know that from my personal experience. I started out as the second best JV runner when I first started running cross country, and my goal was to be the number one JV runner. And then once I got to be a number one JV runner, of course my next goal was to be varsity. So
sure.
and the people in front of me knew that I was, improving, and they knew that they had to step up their game or I was going to leapfrog over them. And that worked its way all the way up. And the next year, kids graduate, kids work a little harder, and it all changes. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Coach, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate this very much. Any parting thoughts before we conclude here?
No, I think if there's anything I could say, just in general from the context of this conversation, is it's been a privilege to be part of a program where it's not just cross country and track at Northeastern. I think it's the entire athletic program at Northeastern. I like to believe there's a very strong role for athletics, interscholastic athletics at the high school level. I think that is a necessary part of high school experience. I think that it makes kids better people. It certainly helps them in the classroom. And I'm really, really happy to be part of, I think, what's a great coaching staff at Northeastern, because all of us have committed our time and energy to trying to help kids take advantage of the 4 years they have while they're in high school to do something meaningful, not just for themselves, but for their teammates, for the school, and something that we know as coaches is going to benefit them for the rest of their lives. So it's just a great thing to be a high school coach, and I'm thrilled to having had the privilege to do it for the 20 years I've done it. So
yeah, well, and you've done a great job with it, that's for sure. And I also will echo what you're saying there. I mean, Brian Stevens, our AD, does a great job. I mean, he really he supports us so well, administration, with Dr. Seidel, Dr. Payne. I mean, they are everywhere, Matt Gay. I mean, he's out all over the place. So, I mean, we do get some great support from, the people in the higher echelons there and everything.
Yeah, and the community and the school board too. I mean, they're a big part of the picture too. I think that all the people I know that are on the school board are advocates for sports. They're not. They recognize the value that sports have in the development of kids, and so yeah, it's been great. I'm hopeful that we can continue to inspire kids to participate in the programs that we have.
Sure.
You've done a great job with getting kids to play tennis and having fun doing it. I mean, the kids that I know, girls and boys on the tennis team, are having a great time, even if they're not superstars, or they're really enjoying themselves. And that's what it's all about. They're part of something that's good for them, good for their teammates, and it's going to help them in the long run. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, just hang on, Coach. I'm going to conclude this, and just hang on afterwards, sir. Okay. But thank you so very, very much. This was super, just super.
Thank you, sir.